Good morning. Good morning. It's great to be at the London Forex Show. This is a presentation about the future of cryptocurrency exchanges. I am the chairman of Globitex, which is a digital currency exchange trading both Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, trading pair against the euro. But I want to start with a little bit of a story. This is a true story. And it's about a little boy, not so little. He was about 13 or 14 years old. And I think it makes the point about what we're going to talk about today very well. This little boy had always spent his allowance as soon as he got it. He would be dying to spend his allowance. He wanted to buy candy, he wanted to buy toys, he wanted to buy whatever he wanted to buy once he had access to money. And this is how a lot of children live their lives. This is how a lot of adults live their lives, because in the Keynesianism philosophy, consumerism is good. We should spend because it's spending that drives the economy. Well, this is how the boy grew up, and he actually made a comment to his parents and to a comment to me that I overheard, and he said, you know, I've been studying this Bitcoin thing. I heard about Bitcoin, and I actually have some Bitcoin because there's no age restrictions about getting into an account. So you can get your own Bitcoin wallet at any age. It's permissionless, so this is fabulous for the youth. I wish that I had it when I was that age. And he said, you know, I've been saving it for about 6 months now, and maybe he caught a good time period or whatever, but what he said to me was that this is the first time in his life that he understood the importance of savings and what it actually meant. Because when he always had fiat, he wanted to spend it as fast as he got it. When he started to hold Bitcoin, he realized that his purchasing power would tend to increase over time, and that as a currency, it was a currency with increasing purchasing power. And this comment really stuck with me, because I felt that this is also what underlies the economy with sound investment. We want to make sound investments, and if we don't have monetary manipulation, if we don't have business cycles that are being manipulated through the control of short-term interest rates by the central bank monetary policies, we can actually make sound investments with a currency that we're not worried about shedding all the time or spending as fast as we get. And Bitcoin is indeed a currency. It operates as a currency. It's only one of many cryptocurrencies, but it's the first and it's the dominant cryptocurrency. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is trading and how you trade cryptocurrencies. Because I don't think that the cryptocurrencies currently are suitable for day trading. There's a lot of people in this seminar that you'll hear from in their presentations, and they'll talk about day trading strategies for cryptocurrencies. I'm going to focus first and primarily on Bitcoin, and I come from a trading background myself. I think that what you notice with Bitcoin in particular is that, number one, as a trader, you don't need margin. It's nice if you can have margin, but there's enough volatility and action as a trading instrument that you don't need extra margin. It's probably unsafe to have extra margin at this point. The other thing that I would say as a trader is that Bitcoin currently in 2018 should primarily be thought of as a medium to long-term investment. In other words, just like the boy who was looking towards saving, you can do better as a trader if you're looking on a long-term trading horizon. Now, if you're here for day trading, there's so many other instruments that are available for day trading. And by day trading, I mean not just an hour, but maybe taking some overnight risk. So you're a 1 to 2 day position trader. If that's your trading philosophy or your trading style, and you have a system around that, there's a number of reasons that you would want to use the traditional markets. You'd want to use S&P. You'd want to use the bond market. You'd want to use gold or silver or even the Forex market, which is very liquid and tradable. For day traders, what you need are very tight spreads. You need very low commissions. And you need to not have what's known as slippage. Today on a lot of exchanges, if you're putting in stop orders, that might make you feel more comfortable and might allow you to sleep at night, but you're probably going to experience quite a bit of slippage on an exchange that doesn't have liquidity, because the stop order will be triggered and you'll be filled at whatever the prevailing price is at the time. That's a lot different than the markets that have been around for 40 years for the futures and options market. So this is something that needs to change in the cryptocurrency exchange market. It's also some of the things that we're looking at when we're building Globitex as an institutional exchange, because we recognize the importance of the stop loss limits, we recognize the importance of slippage, and we know that those things aren't being fulfilled today in the cryptocurrency exchanges. So where does that leave us? I want to talk about my experience in Forex. When I was at Visa, we designed a system that was able to take the exchange rates that we received from Citibank and pass those along to cardholders. And what we did was we changed the entire system, because instead of Citibank maintaining the exchange rate and keeping the exchange rate for the cardholders, we took over the function of the trading room for Citibank, and we maintained our own position in those currencies. So we were able to quote the one rate to the cardholders, and we were able to procure the foreign currency at another rate, so we were able to lock in a profit for that day's trading. Now, we were able to do that because we knew the volume coming in, we knew the volume coming out, and we were able to lock in that rate. Now, prior to that, those currency exchange rates were passed through to the cardholder at cost, and Visa passed on that margin over to Citibank, which was their primary member within Visa, but also their primary Forex bank. So I wanted to give you a little bit of a background on the trading. In the cryptocurrency market specifically, though, we're going to start to see the cryptocurrencies behaving a lot like the fiat currencies. Bitcoin today already has an ISO 4217 currency code. The Bitcoin currency code is XBT. So similar to EUR and GBP and USD, we have a currency code now that is in the ISO database, which will be passed through to all of the Forex retail brokers. It hasn't happened yet because a lot of the software hasn't been updated, and it hasn't also been formally recognized by the ISO yet. It's a de facto currency code because there really is there's no other currency code that is using XBT, and the major quotation services have adopted XBT as the character code for Bitcoin. And the reason that they reserved X is because X is reserved for the non-political units, such as gold or silver or platinum. Gold is XAU, silver is XAG, and Bitcoin is XBT. When we put the application in to ISO offices, which is the non-political body standards body in Switzerland that maintains these currency codes, they initially denied the application because they said that it didn't come with a letter from the central bank of the issuer. So, of course, Bitcoin as XBT is not going to have a central bank issuer that's submitting the application. It was submitted on behalf of the Bitcoin Foundation because we wanted to have a currency code. And that's the reason that it's not currently listed in the ISO 4217 data table. But when it is, that will be a massive buy signal because it means that it will also be pushed out into all the ISO databases, and it will also show up in all of the Forex trading software around the world. But in the meantime, it's being used by Bloomberg, it's being used by Reuters, it's being used by xe.com, Oanda, and Globitex also uses the XBT nomenclature for the trading pair within Bitcoin. You'll either see it as BTC or XBT at some of the exchanges. The other thing that's notable about the evolving cryptocurrency landscape is that we're in a situation now where we have both global exchanges and we have local exchanges. There's about probably over 1,000 or 1,500 different local exchanges. And these local cryptocurrency exchanges will be set up in a particular jurisdiction. They'll be set up in like Sweden or South Africa, and they'll only deal with the local population in that country. That's for language reasons. It's because they want to support the local currency and the in and out of that local currency into Bitcoin, such as the South African Rand. And they also may want to tap into the ATM network to make these transfers smoother. There's a great exchange in the Netherlands called Bitonic, bitonic.nl. They use the ATM network, which is Ideal, I-D-E-A-L, and the transfers that go through Ideal make it very smooth and seamless to buy and sell Bitcoin from your major bank, which is probably why the Netherlands is #1 per capita in terms of Bitcoin nodes, number of Bitcoin nodes in the world, the small little country of the Netherlands. Now, the trend that we're seeing that's very important is that even though we're seeing these local exchanges around the world that are supporting the local markets, we're also starting to see global exchanges that don't restrict themselves to a single market, but they're available for the entire world. So they'll take account holders from any country, and in essence, they end up being somewhat of a clearinghouse for the other smaller exchanges. So something like Globitex or Bitstamp has the potential to serve as a clearinghouse to some of the small local exchanges. And we're seeing this consolidation start to take place slowly in the cryptocurrency landscape. You'll probably end up with about 4 or 5 major global exchanges and still have the network of several thousand exchanges that are at the local level. This is a good thing because some individuals and businesses will require the local exchanges, and others will require the access to international markets, international exchanges. The exchange rate and the price on an international exchange is more likely to reflect the global conditions over the local conditions. So this is one of the reasons you see so much disparity between global Bitcoin rate versus the exchange rate in South Korea, for instance. We've seen the South Korea exchange rate trade at a $2,000 premium at some points over Bitcoin. So as we complete this move from local exchanges and the consolidation of global exchanges, we're also going to start seeing new instruments. We're going to start seeing instruments for futures contracts. We're going to see instruments for options, calls and puts. And these futures contracts will be based on the physical settlement of the underlying commodity. So unlike the CBOE and the CME options that are currently out there for Bitcoin, the exchange options from the cryptocurrency space will be physically settled, or Bitcoin settled, even though Bitcoin's not physical. It'll at least be tied to an underlying commodity that's warehoused and accounted for. Currently, with the cash-settled instruments at CME and the CBOE, contrary to popular belief, they actually pose more of a systemic risk to the financial industry than futures contracts that are physically settled. And the reason for this is because the price can be delinked and unhinged from the actual underlying commodity. You have the opportunity to temporarily cause greater swings. Since there's no physical settlement, it doesn't accurately represent the price of the underlying commodity. And this can get out of whack, at sometimes very much out of whack. And it's also the potential for the tail wagging the dog. If you're not tied to an underlying commodity, you're just based on the cash money that's piling in, mostly and could be underwritten by people with a lot of cash, with no contract limits. So that's one of the changes. When you have an underlying physical for the futures contracts, you can more easily manage the writing of call options and the writing of put options, because you need to be actually tied to the real market to write call options and to write put options. We'll start having more arbitrage opportunities in the way of calls and puts and forward contracts when we have these futures contracts that are tied to an underlying. Right now, there is almost no market for call options or put options in Bitcoin, which would be very, very useful for a lot of companies that are keeping Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Right now, what they have to do is they either have to liquidate their entire portfolio of cryptocurrencies, or they have to use some of the futures contracts that are on the exchanges that are offering futures contracts today, but those themselves are very illiquid, and you're taking on a lot of counterparty risk when you do that. So the exchanges of the future for cryptocurrencies will start to incorporate spot trading with other commodities, futures, calls and puts, margin trading. And the Globitex Exchange is designed from the ground up to be an institutional class exchange. So it has the reporting, it has the API functionality built in, and it will have all of the order types that you need to trade these markets. It currently doesn't have the stop orders, but it has the limit orders. So in order to tell you more about the Globitex Exchange, I want to welcome up our co-founder and managing director, Liza Aizupiete, and she will tell you more about the Globitex Exchange. Thank you for your time.
Does this work? Yes, it works. Thank you, Jon. Let me first begin by saying how nice it is to be at a London Forex Show, and Forex standing for foreign exchange. Our presentation is obviously on cryptocurrencies, and just to give you an idea how different actually foreign exchange is from cryptocurrencies. So from the very name itself, foreign exchange is something which is not native, not local, not national, you name it. Whereas cryptocurrencies is actually something that completely transcends the borders. So there are no geographic or political borders tied to cryptocurrencies. And namely, it was all started with Bitcoin. So this was just a very nice note I wanted to begin with. Being here at the Forex Show is very unique experience for a cryptocurrency exchange. Again, my name is Liza Aizupiete, and I'm the managing director of Globitex. What I'd like to talk to you about today is three things. First, I'd like to tell you more about what Globitex is, what we do, how it came about. Then I'm going to make a case for centralized versus decentralized exchange, which is something very, very popular nowadays. And finally, I'm going to give you an idea of where we're moving, what is the future of Globitex, and that fits very well within what is the future of cryptocurrency exchanges such as us? Well, to begin with, as Jon already mentioned, we're an institutional grade exchange. We have worked on the product for over 4 years now. Traders ourselves, every single person involved in the project have traders background. We've put all our knowledge and know-how into building this exchange. And one of the important aspects which we always emphasize is to have a regulatory backing. So today we can be proud of a group company regulated EMI license, which has allowed us to become almost like a bank, and that's an unprecedented development in the cryptocurrency business. So just because we have this regulatory backing, the development of adding new cryptocurrencies is going to be rather slow. So if any of, usually I'm being asked the question, so can you list my token? Can you list my cryptocurrency? Because as you know, there are over 1,000 various cryptocurrencies out there. If you just have a look at them, there's a plethora of those. The answer to that question from Globitex perspective is unfortunately not. We will be starting with, we have already started last May with Bitcoin. We added Bitcoin Cash, all of both of those against euros, and we will be very slowly adding additional currencies. So next up is Ether, and then most possibly Litecoin. The reason being is because of our regulatory backing, we need to be in line with what the regulator agrees to or disagrees with. Now, why exactly is Globitex different from other exchanges? Well, very simply, and for you as traders, I think this is going to be some of the most important aspects to note. As I mentioned, we already have the trader experience. We are professional traders, and that's the know-how which we put into our own exchange. So first and foremost, we have a fully functional fix API. So if you're an algo trader, you will appreciate writing into our API and actually getting your trades done with your automated strategies. We have a superior matching engine which can match up to, in fact, over 1 million messages per second. That's an unprecedented metric in the cryptocurrency exchange space. Something also always been missing, and one of the big reasons why we decided to actually build our own exchange is a very simple tool called reporting. As you all know, you probably have several brokerage accounts registered with various providers. Reporting is something so important that it cannot be underestimated. So our exchange actually offers something called the net asset value report, where every single movement of your funds, every single order, every single payment is recorded in the most comprehensive way. Obviously, we are a central counterparty. We actually hold your crypto assets, and we have put a lot of years into building our own proprietary system. We called it layered wallet architecture with multiple protection levels for cryptocurrency custody. And as I already said, we are regulatory backed. We have EMI license in our pockets, which allows us pretty much to be our own bank. So we don't actually need a bank intermediary. A big problem which cryptocurrency exchanges are dealing with today. Once we fully integrate it with our SEPA integration, we will be actually able to issue your own IBAN accounts. So now to make a point for and against centralized exchanges. So I don't know how many of you perhaps have any experience with decentralized exchanges, but probably quite a few of you have already heard, if you are into crypto at all, that this is the biggest thing out there nowadays. It goes back to the fad, the very popular notion of decentralization itself. And it all started with Bitcoin, really. But should there be everything and anything decentralized? Well, I say definitely for currencies, but probably not for the exchanges. And here's why. In a decentralized exchange, you're already submitting your AML KYC information in a centralized manner. So by definition, this is not a decentralized exchange. Once your service provider asks you to submit your personal data in a centralized manner, that's it. You are dealing with a centralized service provider. Obviously, for Globitex, it's completely centralized. Volume. You are definitely most limited by volume. If you know a Bitcoin network actually can process only about 7 transactions per second. On the Ethereum, on a good day, you'll probably get through something like 15 transactions per second. So on a decentralized way, and I truly don't know whether you have any experience with decentralized exchanges, this is your major limitation. So you would never be able to pass over 1 million messages per second on a decentralized exchange. Now, offering is obviously very limited to peer-to-peer transactions, whereas for a centralized exchange, we are able to actually foster the growth of cryptocurrencies, list various products, indeed grow the community, grow the understanding, simply by having that ability to execute fast, reliable, and very diverse offering of products. Finally, it is my personal view, but I also hear this from our clients. There is always going to be need for a centrally trusted counterparty. Now, it's either from inability or not wanting to manage your own funds or not knowing how to properly manage your crypto funds, but there's always going to be a demanded central counterparty for your trades, and that's the role of central exchanges such as Globitex. Now, what actually got us all here, and this is a very quick reminder what Bitcoin actually is. For those of you, and I do imagine from the traditional trading sector where our audience is from, I do believe that this reminder could be very useful. So let me just go point by point. What actually is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a decentralized network for payments available globally 24 hours, 7 days a week. It doesn't sleep like SEPA and SWIFT. It doesn't rest on weekends. It's always on. You can always transact on a cryptocurrency network. Now, it all started with Bitcoin, and what Bitcoin basically is a permissionless consensus-based monetary unit, which is an absolute enabler of our digital age. So nobody asked it to come about, it just came about. There was a protocol written, there were users who started using it, and that was it, that was needed. So there is no central governing body which is overlooking or somehow controlling this monetary unit. It is an immutable asset with scarcity of strictly 21 million coins. So that means, and it's appreciating monetary unit. Today we have something about 16.7 million mined. So we have some time to go. I believe, John, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's going to take another 100 years to mine the rest of it. Till 2140. There you go. It is highly divisible. Obviously, 21 million coins is not a big number, but it is highly divisible into 8 decimal units, which we also call satoshis for the legacy purposes. It is irreversible as opposed to chargebacks for card payments, and thus perfectly fungible. So this is a unique property of Bitcoin. It's a unique property of cryptocurrencies which are based on the Bitcoin protocol. It is also traceable, but you can elect it to be traceable. So if you give out your transaction key, you can actually make that transaction to be traceable. If you elect not to, you can stay anonymous. So it's a beautiful currency in that respect. Of course, there are drawbacks. And the prime drawback to the Bitcoin specifically is the community disagreement and how it should actually develop. What has resulted, I'm not going to dive into the details of it, but what has resulted as a result of the disagreements within the community over the past 3-4 years is actually 2 Bitcoins. So nowadays we have Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Cash. I love them both. I think both are doing great thing. And the survivor will most probably be the one who will stick to the original ideas and premises of the Bitcoin. Now, but the most important thing, and I really want to stress this, Bitcoin is a currency. It is undeniably currency. You can trade it as such. You can use it as such. You know, it basically sounds, looks, and behaves like a currency. And in addition, Back in 2015, in October, the Supreme Court of Justice in Luxembourg pronounced it to be exempt from the VAT. And what does it mean? Well, it simply means they pronounced it to be a currency. That's all it is. As for exchanges, now, why do we need exchanges to begin with? Well, there are several arguments for them. I'll just read out all of them because they're very, very important to understand. Enabling new digital assets to be freely exchanged, and this is not only Bitcoin. As I said, there are over 1,000 various tokens and cryptocurrencies. You allow a democratic access to these new assets and actual price discovery mechanism on exchanges. You perform transparent transfer of capital in and out of these assets in a more or less a regulated way. So Globitex has gone through a regulatory process. That's what basically sets us apart. There are other exchanges which are really just token-to-token exchanges, and you can have lots and lots of tokens listed there. It's not the case for Globitex. We've gone actually the hardest route. We've got ourselves an ME license, which will allow us to add more currencies in a very slow pace. But that's the route we chose. So finally, exchanges are important to provide liquidity for trading and hedging. And I'll end this presentation with where the Globitex is heading, and that's one of the key aspects which we're going to tackle as an exchange. So most importantly, exchanges are instrumental for cryptocurrency adoption, and that's just a fact. So what's next for Globitex? Well, we are an absolute fans of cryptocurrencies. We are believers in cryptocurrencies, and we want to see them thrive. We want to see them flourish. And from our experience in finance, economics, and trading, we understand what's needed. What's needed is liquidity. What's needed is attachment to reality. And finally, global trade. This is the ultimate goal for cryptocurrencies to actually thrive. In order to kickstart the next wave of IT and regulatory developments that we have planned for Globitex, we have recently launched and successfully closed our own ICO. So the next step was to issue a GBX token, which represents a trade settlement instrument on Globitex. And the basic premises of our ICO was that the Bitcoin or Bitcoin protocol-based currencies are here to stay. Bitcoin economy scaling or Bitcoin protocol-based currency scaling can be achieved by providing better market access and more diversified trading instruments. Liquidity issue can be solved. It is huge. It's a huge issue, but it can be solved by developing cryptocurrency money markets and by enabling various maturities to be traded across the board, thus finding the equilibrium between the supply and demand. Because if you think about it, any money, just like apples, chairs, and tables, those are things which demand and still comply with the basic rule of economics, which is supply and demand. And for that, for cryptocurrencies to develop that, we need a very good access to these markets. And that's what Globitex is set out to do. So we believe that we can be instrumental in scaling the cryptocurrency economy by listing standardized instruments in money markets, major commodities, and crypto indices. And that's a whole new planet. I'm not going to get into more details on the crypto indices because they simply don't exist yet. But we will make them exist, and we will trade futures on them. And as John already mentioned, all of this will be physically delivered. So if you're trading a Bitcoin futures, your underlying Bitcoin will be physically delivered. Unlike on CBOE or CME futures, where you are cash settled, on our exchange you'll get a physical delivery. So you will get actual Bitcoin in return. If you trade Bitcoin against crude oil, you will be able to have your crude oil delivered to your doorstep or pick it up at a warehouse. So what we're looking at is truly developing magnifying the ability for cryptocurrencies to actually become a unit of account for the rest of the items of reality. Now, in order to do that, we issued our own token, which basically will trade on our exchange very soon. We are still actually doing the allocation, so the token actually hasn't been minted. But we were completely sold out within fewer than 24 hours. So it has been such a success. We've convinced our community in such a short time that what we're doing is actually worthwhile, absolute worthwhile doing. We were planning to run our ICO for 6 weeks, but instead we didn't even run it for 1 day. So if any one of you are our contributors, investors, just like to thank you personally again. In order to give you a rundown on what was the underlying idea behind the ICO that we ran and how we see the future going forward for Globitex, I'm going to run you this movie, which is going to take two minutes of your time, and I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy a lot.
Try taking gold across a border. Try buying 10 tons of coffee with your credit card. Try sending $500,000 to a supplier in 10 minutes using online banking. Bitcoin is the unit of account for the digital age, and it's here to stay. Its users send money globally and make purchases with smartphone apps at over 100,000 businesses across the globe. Its holders invest in the scarcity of 21 million coins. Sit back, beat inflation, and watch it grow. Even so, when compared to global trade volumes, let's face it, Bitcoin is still on the runway. At Globitex, we're thinking bigger. We see a future where Bitcoin is the preferred medium of exchange for everything. Why not cheaply settle international trades with Bitcoin? Swap precious metals and commodities in seconds. Enable farmers to sell consumables like coffee in Bitcoin. What about manufacturing companies, metal miners, oil refineries, and more? For Bitcoin to truly take off and drive global commerce, it needs an industrial-scale exchange for a new kind of Bitcoiner, the Bitcoin trader. The Globitex Exchange is scaling into a global spot and derivatives trading venue based on open order books with a choice of currency pairs and standardized listings for commodities and money markets, all traded in Bitcoin. Are you ready to really trade Bitcoin? Globitex is issuing the GBX utility token for settling trades on the exchange and for promoting future success. First come, first served. Are you a Bitcoin trader yet? Get in and participate in the creation of a global spot and derivatives Bitcoin exchange.
And that would be me saying that indeed, in order for Bitcoin to actually become mainstream, it must be used both as a unit of account and a medium of exchange for not only coffee shops in crypto coffee shops, not only for coffees in crypto coffee shops, but also for international trades, for large bulk volumes. And in fact, just a few weeks back, there was a big trade which was carried out in grain. John, remind me, it was Turkey and Belarus. It was wheat. Yeah, it was either Russia or Belarus, and it was a shipment to Turkey for wheat. So indeed, what we're looking at, Globitex is really not that far off with the ideas for future. It actually is already happening. It is happening on a spot market. And what Globitex intends to do is to develop derivatives market for those traders, for those international trades in order to hedge their positions. So truly, this is your future of exchanges, not just future of cryptocurrency exchanges. Linking digital currency to global trade, that's the mission for Globitex team. These are our contact details. Feel free to contact us personally. John here, myself, and join our exchange as traders, because it is actually a working exchange. We'll repeat, you can trade 2 currencies against euros today. Soon enough, you will be able to trade also Ether, Litecoin, And with time, we will also add major currencies such as US dollar, GBP, Swiss francs, you name it. Thank you.
Okay.